Of Ash and Steel looks solid so far, but it also likely won't strike you as anything you haven't heard before. I was given a hands-off glimpse into this medieval fantasy action RPG set in an unforgiving world, where your actions will shape the fate of an entire land. See what I mean? In our session, I witnessed roughly 20 minutes of gameplay, followed by a Q&A with the developers Fire and Frost, a studio formed with the express intention of making a game inspired by classic RPGs from the 2000s. Think The Witcher, Fable, and the Gothic series, amongst others. From the beginning, the developers stressed that there would be none of the UI or map markers you find in today's games, which could be fun or painful depending on what kind of gamer you are. For me personally, this was one of the most exciting things about Of Ash and Steel. I immediately envisioned the joy, and sometimes frustration, but fun frustration, of getting hopelessly lost while trying to pinpoint an objective with next to no direction. Mancrick's wife, anyone? Of course, this will work best if there are things to enjoy, even if you don't find your objective right away. The developers promise there'll be a lot of that, and I saw some hints of small joys here and there. For instance, I giggled when the protagonist at one point tripped over a rock. Silly goose. Speaking of, let's discuss the guy whose skin we're going to inhabit. He's a capital D dude. Stubbled, ripped, and wearing a perpetual smirk. And, as per the classic RPG formula, he starts as a nobody and has to work his way up into heroism. He looks oddly smooth and Botoxed for a guy who gets into lots of fights. I saw NPCs whose features had more personality than our leading man's. It didn't help that the gameplay I saw didn't have any voiceover yet. Maybe, when voiced, Dude will become more likable. We'll see. There sadly won't be a female version of this playable character, however Dude will be lightly customizable. For example, his hair. His combat opponents range from garden variety goblins to well-equipped bandits. The combat is standard RPG fare. Hack and slash swordplay with a little bit of archery thrown in. You can unlock new combat skills as you progress, allowing you to customize your playstyle, though I didn't really have a clear idea of the possibilities. You can pick up rocks and bottles in the immediate environment, and I'm most entertained by the idea of knocking out all my enemies tavern brawl style. And for those who are into more gritty combat, don't worry, there's a kill cam. Non-combat activities are also available, such as crafting and fishing. Though I didn't see it in action, it sounds like various forms of crafting may get pretty nuanced. You can make specific handles or blades for your swords, for instance. Other money-making ventures include cooking, alchemy, and the good old method of looting the bodies of your fallen foes. The developers promise a cozy world, a design decision made so players didn't get too lost without their quest markers. I definitely got a sense of that coziness from the forest, especially as the weather changed to rain, signaling a time to set up camp and stay dry. I saw scenes in a forest and a town, but there'll be other biomes to explore as well, like underwater caves. The soundtrack doesn't just offer music for each setting, but variations on that music based on factors like time of day. Imagine soft morning sun filtering through the forest leaves, the music swelling with the promise of a new day. Or the soundtrack taking on a sinister tone as night falls. As for the narrative, details are scant. You're in an island kingdom that was once prosperous. There are two main factions, and within them sub-factions, such as bounty hunters or smugglers. Personally, I'm looking forward to becoming a gravedigger, acquiring valuables in an unconventional way. You can make choices that shape the world around you, but I'm skeptical how much of that will affect the overall ending. I hope to be pleasantly surprised. Again, I must state that this was a hands-off preview, and my thoughts are based on observation alone. Without being able to play a build myself, it's difficult to determine if the combat will feel particularly awesome, or if the story will really leave a lasting impression. And I think that's what will really anchor this experience. The story. There are hints of humour that I'm hoping will contrast, by the end, with a more epic tale of strife and survival. Right now, I'd call this a game for RPG players to keep an eye on, but if the developers can really nail that story, and elevate the dude beyond genericism, that's what will distinguish Of Ash and Steel within the realm of medieval fantasy RPGs. For more on Of Ash and Steel, don't miss the announcement trailer. And for everything else in the world of video games, stick with IGN.